This week we're going back to 32nd scale aircraft with a look at Hasegawa's FW-190A-8 kit. So let's open her on up and take a look. So right away we can start to see some of the quality of the kit here from our one of the fuel tanks that's included with the kit here, which will hopefully show up, as well as the included pilot figure, which is very nicely detailed. Let me see if the head will show up, as well as you can also tell from the bullet on detailing of his flight gear on the chest. So fantastic job from Hasegawa on that front. We also have the various exhaust nozzles included on this sprue. Unfortunately, none of them are opened up, so you'll either have to do that yourself or source aftermarket replacements. Also on this sprue are two control side panels, which are fairly nicely detailed, as well as our main control yoke. Also included are our main gear wheels and our landing gear. Pretty basic and nothing I can really say good or bad against them. Also included on the sprue are several other odd and end parts for various antennas, details, and whatnot. Now, one thing to be aware of, and I don't know if this happens on a lot of this kit, but this part here was actually broken when I got it. I've since reattached it on the sprue, but that is something to be aware of. Continuing on, we've got a couple different cowling parts, the front and just behind it where the machine guns live, a couple wing access panels, our prop hub, and attachment point for the propellers, which do include an alignment peg, so that does make getting those in position a lot easier. A couple of engine parts, as well as our tail gear, which is done in two halves, which is an interesting way. Wouldn't better if they had done the point attachment as two parts and then just have the wheel as one. And lastly, on this sprue, we also have our main control panel, which is very nicely detailed, especially compared to some of the other ones we've seen recently. So, fantastic job there on Hasegawa's part. I got a sprue of external storage attachment points. And then moving on, we've got our clear parts. Nice job on here. Nice, clear. Should, once you've gotten masked off and painted, look fantastic. This main one, there's thankfully no mold line, so you won't have to worry about cleaning that up. Continuing on, probably the weakest area on this kit is the engine. Now, granted, most of the engine will not be seen once you close everything up, but having the option to at least have something resembling the engine visible would have been nice. But in this one, it's basically, at least for display purposes, unusable, as the front cylinders go all the way back to the firewall on this, or at least to the back of the part. So does not look the greatest. So that is a bit of a disappointment. Also contained on the sprue is a different fuel tank, as well as our wide propellers and our two fuselage halves, which really can start to see some of the detail and just how crisp and fine it is on this kit. We also have our lower cowling and our main landing gear bays, which is pretty nicely detailed out of the gate. You might invest in an aftermarket one, but you don't super need it. We also have cutouts here for the machine guns, that barrels that run through here. We'll get to that when we get to the instructions. As for the cockpit area on the fuselage tab, there's no molded on detailed, which is quite nice. So we'll build that up. Moving on, we've got our cockpit tub, which is fairly basic. We've got our seat, which does not come with any molded on seat belts. If I can get this, sorry. So, and does not come with decals for seatbelts, so that is something you'll have to source. We've got our landing gear bay doors, which are fairly basic, as well as flaps and our horizontal stabs, and two different styles of seat backs, which is an interesting inclusion. We also have a different style of tail gear and a couple of other odd and end parts. Lastly, we have our wings, both the top, upper, and lower. To get them in frame, I gotta move them fairly far back. But overall, this should hopefully give a bit of a sense of scale for this kit, just how big it is. Again, detailing is very nicely done. So, fantastic job there on Hasegawa's part. Oops. Now this is something I cannot attest to for all of them, but on mine, at least, the decals have yellowed, which is unfortunate. So, colors off, especially in the whites. Reds might be a little off shade, which is disappointing. You get tons of stencils, but yeah. If you can get a newer boxing of this, I'm sure the decals are fine, as Hasegawa's decals are printed by Cardiograph, so no complaint there. So, going into the instructions, build starts off a little complicated, but gets simpler as you go. Obviously, the most complex being here in the cockpit before you moving on. Now, as I mentioned before, with regards to the machine gun barrels, on this kit, interestingly enough, they have you assemble barrels by sticking them through the wing itself and then connecting into the back of the landing gear bay. Now, on the real aircraft, this is how it is, but for them to choose to model it this way was an interesting way of doing it. Typically, you'd expect to see some type of molded on part. So by doing it this way, it gives it a little bit greater level of realism. You get two marking options in this kit. Both have a fair amount of modeling you need to do, so that is something to be aware of. But since this is 32nd scale, it's a little easier. So overall, now it's a good kit. Nothing really sticks out as far as major complaints. Obviously, yeah, the engine could be better. But, you know, it's a good kit, I would say, for someone who's a little more advanced and looking to step up the game or looking to build something a little bigger. Some areas, obviously, like the cockpit, are going to be more challenging, but I'd say this is a good, you know, mid-level kit for somebody. You know, it's got enough for someone who's looking for more of a challenge, at the same time, not so complex that it's going to scare people away. So that was a look at Hasegawa's 1/32nd scale FW-190A-8. Good mid-level kit. So until next time.